All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Simple Steps to an Emergency Remote Workplace. I am your host, Leah Wietholter. And before we get started, I just wanted to kind of go over a couple of things. And then I'll introduce myself and Klint, and then we'll get started. You should see on your webinar screen that there's a place for chatting. So if you'd like to say hello and tell us where you're from, that would be great there. And I love this platform that it says, say something nice. Like that is what goes there. You should also see at the bottom of your screen a place where you can click to ask a question. And so feel free if at any point in this conversation you want to ask a question, just do that there and we can present the question to the entire audience and do that. So hello, Klint. Obviously, Klint's here. And then hi, Dave from Tulsa. Glad to have you.
Hey, Dave.
So let's see. Yeah, it looks like everybody's live now. So that's great. All right, let's get started. First of all, I'm Leah Wietholter, and I'm the owner of Workman Forensics here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And we've been in business since 2010. And whenever I first started this business, I really think it was out of fear that my business was going to fail, that I tried to make sure that whatever we set up, that it was something that was affordable, that was very mobile, and I just didn't know where this adventure was going to take me. And now I'm very thankful that I did that because, well, the business worked, which is great. But then also I'm very glad because it has made it that whenever there are just different things that would potentially shut down a physical location, we're able to still stay in business and work remotely. And just, last Tuesday when the mayor was shutting down several types of businesses, I just said, let's pack it up and everyone go set up at home. And we were up running within a couple hours. So very thankful for that. And so over the last 10 years also, Klint Van Tassel, who's with me today, he has been our IT provider. He's the owner of Sproket Technology, also here in Tulsa. So I've asked him to join us today to just as I show you the things that we found to be helpful. Since I'm not a technology guru, I asked Klint if he would weigh in on just what he's seen with different clients, and then also help us make sure that while we're doing this, we do it in a smart way where we won't be hacked. So, Klint, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, it's Klint Van Tassel, Sproket Technology, as you said already, but just some of the stuff that you wanted to incorporate into your business. As an independent, I'm mobile a lot, and so a lot of what I do is working from home, but working anywhere really. I kind of, I'm almost like a nomad. Like I can work in other people's offices or in my bedroom or at a co-working space, and so being mobile has always been important for me in my business too. So,
yeah, awesome. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to make my screen larger. If you're having a hard time seeing anything or hearing us, please go ahead and just let us know in the chat and we will work to fix that, because guess what? My IT guy's here. So that's great. Okay, let's get started. So the overview for this basically is just how do we look at what is necessary in just a basic office space, and then how do we kind of convert that into a remote workplace? So how can we take something that we have in a physical office and translate that to a remote or virtual option? And then I wanted to kind of touch on like Google versus Microsoft and what all you can actually have with those two providers that offers a whole lot of different options. And then we have just some technical or administrative recommendations and security recommendations from Klint. So just some basic office needs that myself and my staff need if we're in our physical office or if we're off-site are phones, files or file sharing, some sort of filing system. We need to be able to communicate as a team. And then we also need to be able to host meetings and communicate with our clients, especially right now. Just being able, can we actually meet in person or not, which right now is not. And then just also, how do we access software? So all of these things are common in an office setting that's a physical office setting. So now let's talk about how we think about it from a remote workplace. First thing are phones. And I personally don't like for my team to use their cell phones, their cell phone numbers and stuff to call clients or really anybody. Plus, if people are calling our office, we want to make sure that we can serve them as quickly as possible. So I've listed a couple here. I'm sure there's tons of providers now, but whenever I set up my office back in 2010, I chose to use Nextiva. And Nextiva provides service for all of our phones. And then, I'll get into the details of that in a second. But Google also has an option, Google Voice. And like I said, there's plenty of other options. But what's nice, and I'm primarily talking about Nextiva, but we can have our business number, or we can even forward. Like you could even have your current phone system, but then forward to something Nextiva offers. But we can have our business number. And then for us, we have an app where whenever people call, this actually happened this morning, when people call our number, they get an auto attendant. And then they dialed my extension and it rang directly to my cell phone sitting here in my living room. And then whenever we call out, it's really handy too, because we have case managers that handle our different client needs and on different like fraud investigations and stuff. And so they need to be able to call these clients, and if they're not on site, they're able to call out from the app, and it will look like they're calling from Workman Forensics physical offices. So that's really handy. They also have the voicemail to email, where whenever somebody leaves a voicemail, then the recording of that voicemail goes to the email of that employee. And this is about $20 per month per user. That's for Nextiva. I think there might be a little more, like a base fee for Nextiva, and then $20 per month per user. And when I was researching for this presentation, it looked like the Google option also was about $20 a month. So Klint, do you have experience with either, and or have you seen others that you like?
Yeah, so actually I use, I'm a little different than you. I don't have employees working with me. I'm just an independent consultant. And so, but I do use a Google Voice number, and I use that primarily if I want to call someplace and not use my cell phone number. And so similar concept, I'll open up the Google Voice app and dial in the number that I want. I press send, and then it actually my phone will call another number, and then Google will connect the two calls together.
Okay.
Proxy. And then that way, when it's ringing on the other end, it's showing my Google Voice phone number. And the Google Voice, I actually I've had it for a long time. I'm not paying for it, so I don't know if it's grandfathered in or what, but I've got some basic options. If somebody were to call me, I could have it basically screen the call. So it'll say, please state your name, and then I'll get a call, and it'll be Google Voices has a call from this person, and so I can choose to accept it or not. And so that works well for me. Another option that I was going to suggest or talk about is you might be in an office where you have a phone system, like an actual phone system, not a cloud-based provider like you're using. And some of those phone systems, they actually have a software-based phone where if you can VPN into your office network, you can have an app on your computer that would be just like your desk phone and let you dial out using the phone system at your office. And so something like that may be what you might need to use.
So who would somebody contact to get that set up?
Well, it depends on your provider or the phone system, but the one that I was thinking of that I've recently helped somebody set up, the website that I just posted in the chat is sangoma.com. They're a company called Digium that I think was purchased by that company, Sangoma. But that company also does cloud-based phone systems. And the other thing that I would look for if you are starting new is to look for one that does a secure phone connection. Sangoma or Digium they do offer that. So if you bought one of their phones and it's connecting to their system, you'd actually see on the display of the phone like a little shield, kind of like you'd see like in your web browser when you're connecting to a secure site. Mm-hmm. And so it's making a secure connection. So when you pick up the phone and call, your voice communication from your phone to the cloud is encrypted. And so I would look for a provider that has that too.
Yeah, that's great. Well, now I'm going to have to go ask Nick Steva what they offered doing something like that. They're going to be like, who have you been talking to? Okay, that's awesome. Did you have anything else on phones? Sorry.
Nope. I think that's it.
All right, so then the next thing that I'm always thinking about are files, either internal files or client files, and just being able to, like an actual filing cabinet or file room, how are we going to make that accessible to all of our employees in lots of different places that aren't going to be at the physical office? And so at Workman Forensics, we're actually paperless. I mean, our budget for printing and paper is hardly anything because we don't keep paper files. So I've listed a few on here, and I have used no, I haven't used OneDrive yet. I think I also talked about Dropbox. Yeah, let's skip to Dropbox. So I've used all of these, a little bit of OneDrive, but I've used all of these. And so I've put the different pricing below that as well, just for reference. But this is the pricing per user per month for the business. All of these are not personal filings or cloud-based systems, but essentially, I think a lot of people are familiar with maybe saving photos to the cloud from like an iPhone or something, but all of these software or storage providers are essentially, can act like a virtual storage room or a filing cabinet. And what I like about all of these is actually that you can download the system to your laptop or to the console, to the machine, and it will act like just a normal folder on your computer where you can save it. So you're not necessarily having to upload files all the time. You can constantly save and back up to these places. It also allows file sharing between users. So if I save something out to a folder, then Alicia, my creative producer, can also access that same file from her house today. Also, all of these different systems have user access. So in the way that we're set up at Workman, not everyone needs to be in every folder. And so that allows me to do something like, we have our client projects and all of our analysts need access to that, but then we also have bookkeeping. Well, only the bookkeeper and I need access to that. So you can manage who has access to all of these users or to these folders in a very easy way. Any of these storage providers work well. My examples that I'm going to walk through quickly are just using Google Drive because we've decided that's what works best for us. And so we use what's called G Suite, and G Suite includes this cloud-based storage, digital storage. And it's about, it's on another slide, but I think it's about $13 a month for G Suite to include a whole host of things. So I'll just kind of show you, this is the Google Drive file stream installed onto my computer, my laptop, and it has an option for My Drive, which I should say that the way that the shared drives or team drives are set up is through our business G Suite account. So this isn't like Alicia that I mentioned. This isn't Alicia@gmail.com. this is Alicia at workmanforensics.com. It's her business email account is the one that has access to this drive file stream. And because we don't want personal emails used in things like this, I like to keep it very clean and very separate, especially for the type of work that we do. So the My Drive, yes, it's her personal drive, but it's only her personal work drive, if that makes sense. Then also, so the shared drive is what I want to talk about. These are the, thank you, Rob. Yes, G Suite Basic is $6 a month. So I don't remember what the differences are, but yeah, it's not very expensive at all.
Yeah.
So
on that,
go ahead. Yeah.
I think, and I'm not looking at it, but maybe Rob can check. But I think the basic does give you My Drive, but there's basically another level that gives you more advanced team sharing, which is what you're doing.
Okay, thank you.
So
yes, I remembered we had to upgrade for some reason, and it was about that time. So the shared team drives are okay. It includes a vault for e-discovery. Okay, so the shared drives, the way that I've set this up, just for this example, as you can see, this just looks like any other, like your My Documents or anything like that on your computer. But I just set up an example drive for client projects. And then the way that we organize things, you know, if you have a folder for your clients, an actual paper folder, and you have contracts in a section, and then you have maybe some work papers in a section, and a report in a section, and maybe some research in a section, you can do all of that, but digitally, and organize it in these digital folders. And then this is what Drive looks like, Google Drive looks like whenever you're going to give people access to different types of files. So here you just enter their name or their email address, the business one, and you can manage permissions, like whether they can view, can they download, can they edit. There's lots of different options there. So would you like to add anything to that, Klint?
Yeah, I think you were talking earlier about wanting to keep business and personal separate, and I think that's important. It may cost a little bit more to get the business level service from Google or Microsoft or whoever, but the options that you get as far as access control is important, because you do want to make sure that you've got separation where it needs to be, but also it makes it easier if somebody leaves the company. So an employee leaves, you don't have to worry about what files were they sharing from their account. It's already separated. You're just removing their access to it. And so it's worth the extra money to have that flexibility in managing multiple people in a team environment. So
yes, for sure. And then in G Suite, there's like this admin control panel. And so it allows you, I mean, Klint normally does this for me, but it allows me, if somebody leaves, then I can immediately go and change their passwords and everything. And so then that takes care of email, that takes care of their access to our client folders, just all of that all in one place. And then even being able to preserve what maybe they saved to their My Drive, and make sure that that gets filed where it needs to on the team drives that everybody needs to see.
Yeah. So now what I use is sync.com, and I know you've used that too. And it depends on your requirements for your business. If you want to make sure that only you and your team have access to stuff and not your provider, then you may want to consider either using something like sync.com, or there is an app that I'm going to share the link to called Cryptometer or Cryptometer. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but I do use it. And basically, it's an easy way for you to add an additional encryption layer on top of Dropbox or Google Drive or OneDrive. And then that way, all of those providers, they are encrypting your stuff, right? And so it's safe from hackers and people that shouldn't have access to it. But you're also trusting that provider, and not to say that any of these providers are going to mishandle your information. But if you truly want to make sure that you are the only one who has access to it, then using sync.com or that app Cryptometer to set up private encryption is the way to go. And so I use sync.com for that reason. That way I know it's only me who has access to that information.
Yep. And we've actually used Sync as a way to retrieve client information, because we are paperless. So if they're able to scan that in where we don't have to scan it in when we get it, then we use Sync that way, because you can add a password that they have to use to upload the files, and then a password for us to access it as well. And then we go and we move it into our team drive. But that's how we've used Sync in the past, and it's really easy to use. All right. So then the next area is, okay, so we've got this filing system, but you might have a bunch of piles of paper in your office. So obviously piles of paper that have already taken place that are not being used currently, there are plenty of solutions for that. People who will scan all of that in for you. I personally locally use Storage Plus, or Logistics downtown, and they will scan in information for you. But on an ongoing basis, or maybe to catch up enough so that your employees can work as quickly as possible to go remote, there's a couple options that I've listed here. And one, Adobe Scan. Now, obviously, your employees would have to use their phones to make this happen, or maybe there's an iPad that somebody has. I realize there are some personal device issues with using Adobe Scan, but it is free. It's a free app, and then it can be imported into Acrobat Pro, and I'm going to show that in a second. And then a really good scanner, just that's pretty quick, but it's small, are the Canon scanners, and I really like those, and we use those in our office. So the reason I bring this up, so somehow in order to have a remote workplace, you have to be able to digitally convert, like you've got to be able to save paper as a PDF, or to be able to do your work. So for like a tax accountant, they need the client receipts and all of that to be digital, so that then they can create their work papers and complete the tax returns and have all their supporting documents and save those digitally. So these are just a couple options. Now, the other part of that is that if you're used to keeping files in actual paper files, you're also used to being able to just write on your notes and thoughts and things that you want to keep for later on a paper file. And so then that's why I recommend Acrobat DC Pro. And this program allows you to leave comments. You can mark up things. You can have signatures. You can create forms. You can create password protected documents. And it's really an amazing software. And so I have except I shared the wrong screen. Let's do this real quick. I'll switch.
Yeah, I don't use that as much as you do, but it's still worth it for me to have it for the times that I do need to do forms on a PDF, or do password protection on it, or sign it, whatever.
Yeah, this is sorry, I'm going to make this where I can see everything. Okay, this is Adobe Acrobat Pro DC, and this is just something I downloaded so that I can mark it up. But just so you can see, there are different tools, And the one we use a lot is the comment tool. And so you can actually leave notes to say, change this or whatever. What's nice too is that if everyone has this installed on their laptop or machine or however they're using it, you can post that and then somebody else could respond, like Klint could respond and say, done, I've done this. So you can kind of have this list of notes and tracking there. You can also leave text boxes, maybe prepared by client. That's a popular accounting one to use. You can highlight. There's just all sorts of things you can do with Adobe Pro, and so I really recommend it. Arrows, markup, you can do stamps. Stamps are kind of fun. You can say, even like your little stickers telling people where to sign, you can choose a stamp and leave that there. So that's just a really handy tool. But that's, I personally don't know how I would be paperless if I didn't have Adobe Pro, because there's just so many things that you do need to mark up. And what's nice too is that you're not marking up an original and then creating lots of copies and more paper and more paper. So that's my recommendation on digitizing. Obviously, you have to somehow scan the information, get it into your team drive. And then if you'd like to be able to mark up those documents, use something like Adobe Pro. What about you, Klint?
Just a little different perspective. I think your business is you're processing digital paper basically, and my business is a little different. But I still have things like receipts, and so I don't. If I wasn't paperless, I would lose paper, like receipts. I lose receipts, right? So yeah. I don't even do paper receipts anymore. I just do email receipts, and that way I can search my inbox to find it. And that's a lot easier for me than trying to file a receipt away. So yeah, your processing paperwork, processing workload may be different depending on the business. But anywhere you can, leverage email or leverage a digital copy without having to scan it. That's what I would suggest.
Yes, that's true too. Thank you. Because from an email, you can print to PDF. So you don't need to print and then scan it to make it into a PDF. You can actually just save. You can save anything that's on the internet as a PDF, either through like the browser you're using. So I don't have a printer at my house, and I will be fine for however many weeks. So if that makes sense. There are just lots of capabilities there. We lost Klint. I don't know where he went. Okay.
Am I here now?
We just see your logo. So the next thing I wanted to talk about is team communication, because I need to be able to communicate with my team in a quick and efficient way. Plus, they need to be able to ask me questions. That happens all day, every day, whether I'm at the office or whether we're remote. And so I've listed a few options here. Google has, through G Suite, has something called, I don't know where Klint, your picture went. Did I mess you up? Are you there, Klint, still?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. So we use something called Slack, and I'm going to show you a screenshot of how Slack works. But what I'm going to show you on Slack is, for the most part, achievable in Hangouts. We like some of the features. There you are. Hello. We like some of the features of Slack better. And whenever we started using Slack, it was newer, and we weren't using G Suite, and we just love Slack so much. So we pay the additional $8 per user per month because it's that handy to us. But G Suite has the Google Hangouts chat, and then Microsoft also has their version called Teams.
Um,
do you want to comment on that? Yeah.
Teams, because I've been helping more and more people use that. People who have already been using Office 365 with Microsoft, and just kind of leveraging Teams, and they've not, had a history with Slack or anything else, and so it was an easy step. But in addition, if you use, G Suite, and actually I haven't used the Hangouts chat in G Suite, so I don't know how well it integrates. But I can speak for Microsoft here. If you're using Teams and you're using OneDrive or SharePoint with Office 365, it'll actually integrate with your Teams chat, so you could comment and talk about files directly inside of Teams. And so
that's really nice.
Yeah, that's kind of an added benefit of using a Google or Microsoft to keep everything kind of in one umbrella, is you can interconnect things easier. Yeah,
that's really nice. So one of the ways that we use Slack or any of these team communication software is by organizing by topic or client. We organize by both. So we have a channel that actually Klint is part of in Slack that's called Tech Issues. So whenever we have an issue with something technology related, we can use that channel. But then when we're working on client information like client ABC, every client has their own channel so that we're not, confusing client information. Plus, if any of that's ever discoverable or anything in our line of work, we can then just pull that channel without compromising the information of other clients. A lot of the team communication as well involves direct messaging. So if I don't need to talk to everyone about a certain issue and I just need to talk to Alicia, she's my example today. If I need to talk to her, I can just send her a message, and it works just like Facebook Messenger or old school, what was it called? Instant messaging. So also, Slack has rolled something out called workflows that will send you reminders, and there's just some different things that you can kind of make more systematic within Slack. Slack does integrate with Google Drive if you want. We don't do that for various reasons, but you can do that. And Slack also integrates with some of the other project management systems that we use. So it's very handy. This is an example of, I've just done random stuff in the past business-wise. And so I used this as the example. We used to host a shopping event in Tulsa where people would have a map and they'd go around and visit each store. And if they went to all the stores, then they were entered into a drawing for gift cards and stuff. Anyway, it was really fun. It was to promote local businesses here in Tulsa. And so this was the Slack setup we had to kind of manage some of those events. And so as you can see on the left-hand side, these are the different channels. So just random things, maybe ideas for the future for the event from 2016, the event from 2017. But then also we have our direct messages where I could just directly message Courtney, who was my co-coordinator for that event. But this is just kind of the layout of what this looks like. And it really works kind of like a Twitter feed or Facebook feed. I mean, really, if you just think of social media, but in the business context and organized in this fashion, it's pretty helpful. And there's lots of ways you can set up like a blind copy email address so that whenever you send emails related to each channel, it will put a copy of the email in the channel, which is really nice too. And it's really handy for me so that I am not blind copied on or CC'd on every single email my team sends out, but I can still stay in the loop. Anything else on team communication, Klint?
Yeah. So I'm not a heavy Slack user, but I know a lot of people do use it, and it's been around for a long time. And it's also very easy to connect. It's very open, and so you can connect it with a lot of things. So what I was talking about earlier, where Teams is integrated with SharePoint, and you can talk about files. And you said you could actually integrate Slack with Google Drive, so you could do something similar there. So Slack's very popular. It's very open, and so it may be a good choice, even if you have Office 365 and you're already paying for Teams. You still may decide to use Slack because of its connectedness. You need to connect it with some other system. So.
Yep. Okay, so then the next section is just how do we meet with people. So actually, one other thing related to Slack is that for your team in Slack, you can also do within the direct messages, you can set up kind of group messages, kind of like group text, but you can also do video chats through Slack, which is kind of nice. But they need to be on your team, and they have to be a user in order to do that. It's not open externally where you could invite clients or anything like that. So put together a few options. One, I just recently started using Zoom to record our podcast, and I love it. And it's really easy. And it's free for the most basic level. If you just have like less than 3 people in a call, it's free. If you have more than 3 people, then it's still free, but you're limited to 40 minutes. But it's really nice. The business option is about $20 a month per account or whatever. We also use the G Suite Meet. We use that a lot for our like if we need, right now, that's what we're using every morning. We have a morning check-in call. And so we use Meet because it's really easy to use. You don't have to download anything. And you can also share your screen. So it's very handy. And then Skype is now, oh no, somebody cannot see or hear anything. I have no clue, Klint.
I think somebody just joined because there were 5 or 6. That might be that person. Hey, Dave and Rob, if you're still in front of your keyboard, can you let us know if you can hear us and see us? Okay. Could be something with the web browser.
At the bottom of your window, does it say get video audio help? Do you have that option, Klint? Because that might also, you have it? Okay, so everyone should have that. And yes, if you use Chrome.
Chrome's usually the most compatible for stuff like this.
Klint, while I kind of keep moving, will you also just let them know that this recording will be provided in an email as well after we finish? And I will also have this PowerPoint available for download for anybody who's interested. So for the Skype option, it's now part of Office 365, but you can also just, I mean, there's free options, there's paid options of Skype. Skype's been around for a really long time. Well, and one thing, do I?
Well, on the Skype, Microsoft is moving their business side to Teams for Skype. Right. And so back to the whole business versus personal. If you're going to use Skype, it's technically a personal account with Microsoft. And if you're using business, it'll be Teams. And you can do with Teams, you can do like external users can access your meeting. Depending on how you set up the organization, you could restrict it completely or you could open it up all the way. So it's flexible there. And And I don't, my clients use it for meetings with their staff and, with clients, their clients. But I do have it set up, and there's an option as well with Teams to, it's like $4 a month to have a call-in number. So if you wanted to do a meeting with a phone call number, it's basically what you're paying for your Office 365 license already, plus that $4 a month for the call-in number. So.
Okay, yeah. I did not even realize all those things were meshed together until I switched to PC recently. So yeah, that's great. One thing I did want to mention here too, just from a management standpoint of a remote workplace, is especially like I have employees who work remotely all the time. They do not live in Tulsa, and their only work for us is done remotely. However, I also, so then with everyone needing to work remotely right now, I have some people who have never worked remotely, and I just felt like they needed a little more structure to make sure that they're getting up every day and that they're logging on and like actually getting their work accomplished. And so just a little management tip that kind of hit me last week was we just started having a check-in call at 9:30 every day. And my team chooses their work hours, but 9:30 just kind of everybody's usually on or normally at the office by then. So we just have our check-in call. And then that way we can say, what are your goals for the day? And we do that every day. So then we can see how far people are getting and just some accountability. As a fraud examiner, I know that once people were talking about going remote on LinkedIn, the other fraud examiners I follow, they were talking about all the different ways employees might steal and take advantage of the situation that they're in. And so just adding some of that accountability, I just think it's really easy by having a morning check-in call.
It's a great tip.
Thanks. Also, once again, you can use these options for, the fact that clients don't necessarily have to have access. They don't necessarily have to share their screen or video calls with you, but Zoom and Meet also have phone call options. Then of course you can do video calls and screen sharing like we've talked about. So kind of the last thing on my list was just talking about G Suite versus Office. We use both because we love Excel. We're a bunch of accountants and data analysts. So we use Office 365, but then we also love the flexibility of G Suite. We use their email, calendars, all of these things that are listed. And then I've mentioned Drive. And then we also use some of their G Suite just has a lot of Google just has a lot of cool features if you're trying to create your own apps and scripts and things like that. And so we've been using more of that in our work. And so we decided to use G Suite. And even though it might have been more efficient to just use Office 365 and maybe not use Slack and whatever, this is just what we've decided to do. We love Slack. And I feel like our business has kind of grown with the technology. And so once you're used to using a certain type of technology, it is kind of annoying to make a change just to maybe cut some cost. And so we think that the features outweigh the cost at this point. But a lot of the things that we've talked about are really covered by either using G Suite or Office 365. And they're now charged on a monthly basis as well.
Yeah. I don't know how much else you have to cover on this, but I'll just some thoughts that I have. Both of these services, you can, if you don't have them already, you can get a trial and see if it will work for you. So, but even if you've signed up for it, you've been using it, and you just maybe keep hitting walls of things that you can't do or you wish you could do, but then realize, oh, this other service will do it. Don't be afraid to, try another one. Even though, like you said, it may be annoying to switch, it's still possible. I think that's kind of the great thing of where we're at is we've got a lot of great options from multiple companies, so we've got choices. And I mean, I use Microsoft for my email service, Office 365, and that's just because I'm more comfortable with using their Exchange server product in Office 365. But Google has been really pushing the envelope with this cloud platform and really challenging Microsoft to step up their game in a lot of areas. And so I think it's great to see both these companies really bringing their best. And that's maybe another point I was going to bring up was these two or something like it. Zoho is another one. There's others that are similar. I would definitely use one of these services as opposed to just falling back to maybe an email service that comes with your website host, or something that's maybe it does the job as far as it's an email account, but it's not going to be world class like Google or Microsoft or some of these other companies that really put a lot of effort into it.
Right. Yeah, and the only other thing I was going to add is that if you're looking to do something to become a remote workplace quickly, especially right now, you really could just start with one of these. And it's going to handle a lot of your needs. The only other thing you're going to need is a way to, if you handle a lot of documents, how are you going to digitize the documents? And then if you need to, leave notes and things like that, instead of what you would normally write on paper, have Adobe Pro. But that'll get you up and running really quickly. The other thing I was going to mention is that if you have a server where people are using different types of software that you're sharing, or not necessarily sharing, but that everybody logs into the server to do this, we haven't really covered that today, and that's just a little more technical. But all the things that we've mentioned today, I think, are kind of seem to be in the companies that I've been around, the things that prevent them from having a remote workplace. They understand that they're going to share software or have the software hosted on this server, and they all log in and use that, but then they've got paper surrounding them in their office. So that we're not really here to talk about that. But and then another option too is that you could install software on the individual computers. And then, we're down to where we don't even use our server that often anymore. I made a note to myself here that just if you're using QuickBooks, if you are an accountant, QuickBooks does not like to open files that are hosted on Drive. So it doesn't really like the cloud based, like if you're trying to open a backup file, it just doesn't like it. All right, so I think Klint has a few things to go over to help us just make sure, or just some things to keep in mind that whenever we're setting these things up, just some things to keep in mind so that we don't get hacked and that we're maintaining security even though we're, working from lots of different places. And I would say too, some of my experience is actually working in law enforcement, and just a really good thing to try to drive home to your employees is to make sure, especially when they're working from home, that they lock their computers and that it's only used for business purposes while they're at home. And that's all I have, but I'm going to turn it over to Klint.
Yeah, actually, could you go back to the previous slide?
Yes.
Just a thought that I had on QuickBooks or other programs like it. Yeah, you're right. The QuickBooks desktop, we're not talking about the online version of QuickBooks. We're talking about the QuickBooks program that you install on your computer. That does not play well with a lot of remote access technologies, including storing the file in OneDrive, because it's a database. And so that it's not unique to QuickBooks, but it is a problem QuickBooks has. If you're trying to share it, especially between users with a cloud storage account, it's just not gonna work. But remote desktop or having a computer inside of the office that you can access from the outside as if you're sitting in front of it. I find that's the best way to use a program like QuickBooks. Unless you don't need to share the file. So like if you can just use that file on a laptop and then take it out of the office, that could work too. But if you need to be able to keep it inside the office or have other people use it, remote desktop works best. And there may be other programs like that. So just, kind of assess the software that you have. So a lot of this stuff that we've talked about so far, it's very easy to do through cloud storage, Word documents, PDFs, Excel spreadsheets. But there's going to be some special cases that keeping a computer on in your office as a server, or having maybe you have an actual server for lots of people in your office to use. Having something set up that you can remote into may be the best solution. So I'll actually get to a little bit of that in what I was going to talk about and things to avoid. So this is kind of like miscellaneous stuff, but stuff that I've seen. Emailing files to yourself, especially like a home email address. Bixby telephone company is local company here. And I'm not trying to pick on them, but they use an email service. Or their email servers don't communicate securely. So in other words, if you email something from your work email address to your email at home that is with Bixby Telephone Company, then that email was just sent in the clear, so to speak, from your work email to your home. So that could be a danger, but also, you may be emailing stuff that has no business being on a personal email account, right? Or in a mailbox that is not work related. So it's not a good idea in general, but especially home email addresses, emailing files to yourself, you can get in trouble with that. And then you may need to access a website that you get to on your work computer, and you need to access it at home. So you write the password down, or just passwords in general that you keep. Just think about where you're putting them, and is where you're putting that password designed to be a place where you put passwords. Contacts is one that I've seen, unfortunately, too many times. And just think about what contacts are doing on your phone. You sync your phone with your car. Your contacts get synced with your car. You tell Siri, hey, Siri, call this person. Well, Siri's looking at your contacts. And you download an app that says, hey, do you want to can we have access to your contacts? Well, if you've got passwords in your contacts list, those passwords are now with all of those services and places. So definitely I use a password manager. I use LastPass, and that's something that you can actually get for Teams. And you can share passwords. So you could create an account with Adobe, for instance, and then you can share that with Alicia, since that's our favorite person today. Yeah. And then she can log into Adobe without even seeing the password. So you can do some cool stuff with LastPass. But at the very least, I've helped people set up in Notes on an iPhone. And imagine you can do something similar on Android. You can lock a note. You can put a password on a note, and then that way it's going to be protected. So think about where you're putting passwords. Don't put them somewhere. If you're going to put them on a digital device somewhere, put it somewhere where it's designed to be. Just kind of do a little common sense there, if you will. So this one, the multi-factor authentication setup. Sometimes it's obscure, but sometimes it may say, hey, they may offer, Google may offer a checklist, a secure checklist, things to do to lock down your account. Go through those, and the multi-factor authentication, it may seem complicated or it may seem like an extra step to do, but really why it's so important is because a password is not tied to an individual. In other words, you could tell me your password, Leah, and I could go sign in. That doesn't mean that I'm you. But if you tie your login information to that multi-factor, that second step of getting a code on your phone, I'm not going to have your phone. Have you ever given me your phone, Leah?
No.
Like to take home or, take out of your site. So tying that login to your phone is a stronger way of identifying online accounts with you, with yourself. So that's one of the most important things, especially for like an email account, because email accounts can be used to pivot to other accounts. You can do forgot my password, have an email sent to some email account, and if somebody's got into the email account, then they can pivot to other accounts. So that's a big one that you can use to protect yourself when you're working, even no matter where you're at. Any online account that you set up, if you have an option, I would do that. And then this one's kind of technical, but we were talking about QuickBooks a little bit ago and accessing a server, and it could be easy to just do what's called port forwarding, where you open up a door to a computer inside of your network so that you can access it from the outside. But the problem is you're opening that door to not just you, but the whole world. And so to put a VPN is a stronger form of remotely accessing stuff inside of your work network. So, if you're in IT, you know what I'm talking about. If you're not, you may not know what I'm talking about. And so I would talk with your IT staff or consultant or whoever is responsible for that and just say, hey, some things that I've seen where port forwarding is typically used is like surveillance cameras, remote desktop, and even setting up IP or VoIP phones to connect back to a phone system. Sometimes port forwarding is used for that. So, just maybe ask your IT if those things are in use. Ask them, hey, are we doing port forwarding, or could we set up a VPN instead? Yes, it's an extra step, but it's going to be a more secure. So
That's great.
Yeah, and so this kind of topic prompted me to just write some things down, and this stuff that I just kind of verbalized and went through, I've put up at that website, howtogethacked.com. It sounds maybe a little odd, but basically it's just kind of get you thinking, these are some things that if I'm doing these things, I'm more likely to get hacked. So I've put up a draft, if you will, of what I just talked about. I'll finish writing that out, and I'll add some more to that website. So if anybody listening wants to check back at that website, they can see more topics in the future. So.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Klint.
Yeah, thank you.
So thank you all for attending today. If you have any questions, please feel free to email me, Leah@workmanforensics.com, and I'll at least give you my recommendations, just telling you what we've used in our business. Like I said, Workman Forensics, it has the word forensic in it, and most people think we hack computers, but we don't. We're forensic accountants. We're accounting and data analysts, but I think that our team does a really nice job of using technology to be efficient, and makes it when a lot of other businesses are maybe struggling to be at their offices and so forth, we can just keep plugging on and working hard. And so I just wanted to make this available for people that might need to do that within the next week or several weeks. So thank you all. We hope you're doing well and staying safe. And let me know if you have any questions.
Bye.
Y'all have a good day. Thank you, Klint.
Yep, thank you.